Anybody can fall prey to financial scams, whether on the internet or in one-on-one interactions. But older adults, particularly those living alone or who have mild memory difficulties, may be particularly at risk. In the following scenario, you see a scam that is well thought through, perpetrated by people who know how to gain the older person's trust with the aim of taking advantage of them financially.
Okay. You can do the talking this time, mate.
Nah, it's your turn. Besides, I always believe you more than they believe me anyway. Just remember to tell them that we clean the gutters very well.
Yeah, right. Well, you take the toolbox then.
Fine.
Fine.
I wonder who that could be. Yes, what can I do for you?
Oh, hello, ma'am. Remember us?
We did your gutters for you last week. Did a fantastic job too.
Remember? You told us to come back today because you said you'd have some cash to pay us with by now. You said you might have been to the bank by today. Have you had a nice week?
Oh, yes, thank you. My daughter took me out for my birthday one day.
Yes, of course. You told us you were going to be celebrating a special day when we came last week and cleaned out your gutters.
Oh, you remember that? Well, yes, she looks after me very well. Now, what was it you said you did for me?
Oh, we cleaned out your gutters. All these gum trees, they make a terrible mess, don't they?
Oh, yes, but the kookaburras love them, and I love the kookaburras. You know, if you hear a kookaburra laugh, you have good luck for the whole day.
Yes, ma'am. You told us that last time too. And you know, we've been looking forward to coming back and seeing you and listening to them.
Well, now, how much did you say I owed you? I'll just go and get my purse. Okay, right.
In this scenario we just looked at, what are some of the issues?
Well, clearly when you look at it, it's an opportunistic exploitation of an older person. There's issues of duress, in that you can see there's two of them and only one of her. There's a lot of prompting and leading of her and coaching her to see things as they want her to see them. So it clearly is an opportunistic exploitation.
What are the fundamental issues here?
The main problem is that it's a scam and that it deliberately targets an older person and that she lacks confidence. Clearly there are some memory problems, so that she can be talked into maybe this did happen and maybe I should pay. And there's nobody there to monitor what's happening. There's no protective person there to help her. So that's one of the main issues. Yeah.
In the scenario, you see her living alone in the house. What specific issues of capacity are raised with someone living alone?
Well, there is no one she can check with. That often, if there is somebody living with you, you can refer it to them, they can support you. It helps you reduce duress for a start, you know, and the pressure on you to make a decision. You know, I think in this scenario there's quite a lot of duress from those two men. I mean, clearly there's issues here of this social vulnerability of this older woman who's living alone and operates on a basis of trust in how she deals with people, and this is what's being played upon in this circumstance.
If she later realizes this is a scam, does she have any recourse?
Yes, but sadly what she can do, it probably won't result in the money being returned. She can report it, and you know, as a social worker I would encourage her to report it, because it then means that the scam gets notified and it can protect other people. The issues in reporting it to the Office of Fair Trading or a seniors legal service or an equivalent organisation, consumer advocacy or legal service, the issues there are that older people often won't report because of the shame and embarrassment of being taken advantage of, and also that it's very unlikely that you'd retrieve the money, because there's no evidence. How do you prove that this has actually taken place? No paperwork, there's no evidence, there's no independent witness. So although she can seek redress by reporting it, it's unlikely that it will result in the money being returned.
Is there any way this could be prevented from happening in the first place?
Yes, there's two main ways that it could be prevented. One is the use of public education, information and fact sheets about protective behaviours. There's quite a lot of information available from consumer organisations and legal services about the importance of not working with door-to-door salespeople, of not dealing in cash, of ensuring you have identification, of ensuring that you have quotes and paperwork and receipts. So a lot of that public education is very important, and naming it as scams, you have to be very careful. These are the things that you need to do. Another approach would be monitoring her finances, having a family member, say, checking on her finances, discussing with her what's decisions she's made in relation to financial transactions.
Let's say that this woman has no family and lives alone. Is there anyone else that could serve in that monitoring role?
Well, first up we would ask her, that you would have to begin with who she trusts and who she would want to work with. If there isn't any trustworthy person, and no nieces or nephews, that she would consider trustworthy in relation to her money, then it could be referred to something like the public trustee or a public trust organisation to help her manage her money. But I think before that you would want to have some careful assessment of capacity.
What is it in society today that is making people prey on older adults?
I think from a social work perspective we would argue it's the broad social attitudes that generally devalue older people and make them subject to these sorts of behaviours.
What sorts of things can we do to combat these kinds of ageist attitudes?
Community education, broadly attacking images of older people as always dependent and vulnerable, looking at positive images of ageing, encouraging younger people, I guess, to mix with older people, to have a much more interaction with older people.
Cheryl, in this scenario, everyone is Caucasian and from a Western background. But if that's not the case, what are some of the issues that would come into play?
I guess it adds to the complexity of what's happening. There will be cultural issues in terms of a woman opening a door to two men, but in different cultures that wouldn't be acceptable. But there'd also be probably a greater sense of duress with people not understanding systems, not understanding perhaps language well enough, being more easily intimidated if you don't understand what's happening. So I think for people from culturally and linguistically diverse communities, that the layer of culture and language and communication just adds to the complexity and the vulnerability of the older person in this situation. And there's lots of cultural issues around money. Who owns the money? What are the issues around money? Do you talk about family business? So there's a strong cultural component in all of this, which should be taken into account in any judgments about capacity and decision making.
The stereotype of an older person is of someone who's vulnerable and dependent. But is this always the case?
No, it's not. Many older people are certainly well able to manage their money, to assert themselves, to live independently. What we generally see is the people that come to public attention of services may well have some disability or incapacity. But there is some levels of vulnerability for older people who are very old and are frailer and maybe have lost some sight and hearing, and generally often it's to do with confidence as well. So that makes them much more subject to being put upon by others as they lose confidence.
For both health professionals and legal professionals, do you feel they get enough training in how to work with older adults?
Sadly, no. And certainly some of the work we've done with legal professionals, there hasn't been a lot of education around how to talk with older people, again very old people, how to communicate properly, how to take your time and listen and be clear about how you communicate. With other health professionals, it's certainly built into courses, you know, working with older people, but I would argue that they're often insufficient. And often in our own profession, not the popular courses that students want to take.
Thank you so much for that, Cheryl.